Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Honest Football Talk, where I, Thomas Swellen, give you guys my honest take on everything going on in the NFL world today. And my goodness, guys, do we got a lot going on in the NFL world today. As you guys know, we just got the first week kicked off to the NFL season, had some great results, and I'm here to give you guys some of my takes on everything that happened this past week. So let's get right into it, shall we? So looking into the NFL's Week 1 recap, I figured we'd start the episode by going over, of course, the Thursday night matchup that broke down last week. Not too surprised that the Kansas City Chiefs ended up winning that game. As you guys know, the final score to that game was Kansas City 27 with Baltimore with a final score of 20. It did come down to the final seconds as Baltimore did drive all the way down into the red zone with final seconds to go, literally right before the clock expires. Lamar Jackson throws a touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely. What should have been a touchdown pass ended up getting called back. After further review, it was clear that Isaiah Likely's toe was on the line, but it was literally by a few inches. Patrick Mahomes had some great advice for Isaiah Likely after the game, saying that Isaiah Likely should have got some white cleats, because that would make it it definitely would have made it a lot more difficult to determine if he was out. That's how close it was, is if he did have like pure white cleats on, might have been a little bit harder to tell if his toe was on the line or not. So it just goes to show how this game really is a game of inches. The NFL really does come down to inches sometimes, and it was a great game. Definitely one of the best games to start the season I've seen in a long time. I was on the edge of my seat, couldn't go to sleep that night. Of course, it was a Thursday night game. Game ended towards like midnight or so, and I was up well past midnight with a lot of adrenaline, ready for the next game. But yeah, really awesome to see that. Really awesome to see both teams go at it. Even though the Ravens lost this game, I do think that the Ravens are going to be okay. It was a little worrisome to see that O-line. The O-line was not holding up at all for Lamar Jackson. It seemed like every time Lamar went back to throw, he just immediately broke out of his position to just go run the ball, and it worked a lot because Lamar is Lamar. He's a crazy athlete. Dude had, I believe it was 16 attempts running and 122 yards rushing on that, along with his let me get you the exact stats here. Along with his 26 for 41 passing completions and attempts, with 273 yards passing and one touchdown pass. So it goes to show, with 273 yards passing, along with the 122 yards rushing, it goes to show that Lamar was definitely not the issue for the Ravens here. It goes to show that the Ravens definitely have some issues, as they weren't able to squeak out the win here, but I believe a lot of it is some changes on the O-line, maybe some new maybe they get some new bodies in there, or maybe they just change up some of the game plan to make it so that Lamar doesn't have to run every time he goes back to pass. I got a feeling that Baltimore's going to get it together. It's still very early in the season. It's week 1, and they'll bounce back from this. Kansas City, they just looked, of course, the same as always, came out swinging. They didn't even have a lot of Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce. It was mostly Patrick Mahomes throwing it all over the place, getting out of pressure. Watching Patrick Mahomes is really special, man. I'm telling you, even if you're not a Kansas City fan, I know there's a lot of drama between Kansas City and Taylor Swift, and I know if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, you might not be too thrilled to check out the Chiefs, but I'm telling you, man, take your time. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Watch them play a little bit. You'll be amazed. That's history in the making. I mean, you're watching legendary talent on the field that's going to be talked about for decades upon decades. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a special talent. I doubt we're going to see something like that again in the NFL for years to come. Who knows? Thought that with Tom Brady, and here we are with Patrick Mahomes. Maybe we will, but it is history in the making. Definitely recommend going out and seeing the Kansas City Chiefs play, because it's impressive to see what they're able to put on the field. And going on from there, I'd say that's everything I got for the Thursday night breakdown. Let me know what you guys think. Was there anything you guys caught for the Thursday night matchup? Another thing that was kind of discussed that I might get into a little bit more here is the officiating. I know there's been a lot of question marks about, why are all these flags being thrown? It seems like there's a point of emphasis for the officials to call these guards, or I'm sorry, not guards, the tackles lining up too far off the line of scrimmage. Their head needs to be lined lined up on, I believe it's like with the hips of the other linemen and so forth and so on, and getting the call exactly right can be difficult. I know that it's a weird point of emphasis, because how can you really tell if a tackle's really jumping offside sometimes? Because it's like when they put it in slow mo, it looks like that it's a false start, but in human time, like it's hard to tell that as a referee. So I understand why this call is kind of hard for refs to really get down to an exact T. Definitely some kinks to work out, but it's not as fun to watch as a viewer as well. We don't want to see a million penalties being called every single play. We want to see the game get going. So understand why the refs kind of want to eliminate that, because it's too much of an advantage for the offensive line, but at the same time, we want to make the viewing experience still, enjoyable for the fans. So hopefully these weird points of emphasis are going to get nipped in the butt here soon, and we won't be seeing a lot of these penalties going forward, hopefully. So that's what I got with that, and like I said, I do think the Ravens are going to bounce back from that Thursday night matchup, but Chiefs are still the Chiefs. They're still a bandwagon, and they're still the team to beat in the AFC, so we'll see how they go as the season goes on. And going from there, we'll go ahead and get into my second matchup, the Friday night matchup. Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles, they got their win against the Green Bay Packers. Now, I am a little sad for Jordan Love. He got hurt towards the end of the game. Before we get into the statistics here, the Eagles were considered the home team. They had won with a score of 34-29 against the Packers. So, good team win for the Eagles. It was all over the place with this game. I mean, if you followed it from the very beginning, as an Eagles fan, you were just basically done with the game after the first two drives. I know I was heated watching that game, seeing our offense just struggle right out the bat. It goes to show that preseason really does matter. I know a lot of people want to say get rid of the preseason, we don't need it, and really the veterans kind of do. These slow starts that we're seeing from a lot of teams, I think really goes along with not having these preseason reps. I mean, your starters aren't getting the game reps that they need. That was the whole reason the preseason was created. It's weird that I understand that injuries happen, and I know a few years back we had been getting some freak injuries in the preseason that was causing a lot of veterans to want to be very hesitant about getting these preseason reps, but the more reps you get, the better you're going to get. You got to kind of take that risk. I mean, the risk is there, but risk versus reward, I think it's more rewarding to get those reps in and make your team better for the future. So going with that, I think the Eagles started out really sloppy because of the lack of preseason reps, had 2 turnovers right off the bat, had terrible fumbled snap, things that could have been cleaned up very, very easily had we had the reps. But going from there, I do want to say one of the strong points I was worried about with the Philadelphia Eagles was their offensive line. After that game, I'm not nearly as scared, I'd say is the word. I'm honestly much more positive about our offensive line than I was in the past. Malik Beckman looked really, really good as a guard instead of a tackle. The whole O-line just did an amazing job keeping up with their assignments. And when looking at the rest of our offense, I'd say they did a great job as well. Our wide receivers, looking at A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they did a great job producing on the field. You saw Devontae catch basically everything thrown to him, all the key down, all the key third down conversions, that Devontae Smith made. And along with A.J. Brown just, going out, doing great against Alexander, making some big body catches, had his big 60-yard touchdown run. That was amazing, really big for the team. And I'd say did amazing. Now, when it comes to the rest of the receiving core, was a little bit disappointed. Thought Jahan Dotson was going to get worked in a little bit more, but of course that never came to fruition. It was basically just the Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown show, which I'm not mad at. I mean, if that's what's going to be every game, so be it. However the Eagles got to win, they'll do it. I like the way that the offense looks. They look really, really good. And speaking of the elephant in the room, of course, we got to look at running back. Probably the biggest highlight of the Eagles offense is our running back room and Saquon Barkley. Everyone was wondering, is he going to be as successful, or is he going to be just as much of an elite talent as what he was out in New York and how good he looked? And the answer to that question is yes, he is still just as elite as what he was in New York, and it's looking even better for him now that he's behind an actual competent O-line. The dude had 3 touchdowns. I repeat, 3 touchdowns. The dude's awesome. I mean, he could have had even more. He could have had a 4th one theoretically if the Eagles weren't done with their play calling and ended up having to go with a field goal there at the very end for their the final points that they scored in the game. Should have ended up being a touchdown to really seal the game, but ended up being a field goal and technically keeping the Green Bay in it, which ended up leading to Jordan Love's injury, unfortunately. But I digress. It was still overall, especially another thing that I need to mention is the field conditions out in Brazil. For whatever reason, we had the sod fodder, the sod issue. Excuse me. The soil was apparently really I don't know if it was damp or the soil was not of good conditions for football for sure. You could tell a lot of players slipping and falling, coming out of their breaks. It was really sloppy football to watch, really hard to watch. Especially Saquon's very first catch on a toss was him just falling to the ground for a loss of 5 yards. It was rough to see for the first few drives for the Eagles, but once things started really getting rolling, it was special to watch Saquon break out of his stance every time, every down that the Eagles had that they needed it. Saquon would burst for a first down or something. Dude's special. Dude's amazing. I'm excited to see him for the rest of the season going forward. Really, really happy he's a Philadelphia Eagle. And again, I got to say, thank you, New York. Thank you, New York Giants, for giving us Saquon. I mean, whew, oh man. I'm so looking forward to watching him every Sunday. You have no idea. Just that offensive weapon. It's so nice to have that. Oh, I'm excited, but going forward, let's move on with our breakdown. We got some more matchups to cover. Another one that I thought was kind of surprising was the Buffalo Bills versus the Cardinals. Now, I know Buffalo lost a lot of pieces in the offseason, so I was really curious to see how they come out swinging this year. And, of course, Buffalo is going to be led by Josh Allen. However good Josh Allen does is about as far as the Buffalo Bills are going to go. If Josh Allen has a bad game, chances are the Buffalo Bills aren't going to win that game. But as long as Josh Allen continues to show that he's a superstar in the NFL, I got a feeling that the Buffalo Bills should be fine. Because, I mean, he did amazing against the Cardinals. Had, a total of 4 touchdowns. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. It just goes to show that it all goes through Josh Allen. And when looking at the Cardinals, I wasn't as impressed with them. Didn't really like how how their defense basically played. They had a lead for a good bit of the game. Like, they came out swinging. Looked like that Cardinals were actually a team to beat. But defense didn't really do anything, and especially when the Bills don't have much in terms of firepower on their wide receivers, you would think that the Cardinals would take sort of advantage of that and lock down Josh Allen, but of course they weren't able to, as Josh Allen just continued to get better and better as the game went on. So hopefully the Cardinals figured out. They got to figure out how to get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved. Dude did not have a lot of targets. It was Greg Dortch who led their wide receiver room, which you would think if they spent such high draft capital on a wide receiver that they would expect him to be a bigger part of the offense. So got a feeling the Cardinals will be making some changes on offense as well going forward. We'll see if Marvin Harrison ends up producing more going forward, and we'll see if they're able to bounce back. Cardinals play Los Angeles this week, the Los Angeles Rams, so we'll see if they're able to make some sort of comeback there and have their record be 1-1 instead of 0-2. So we shall see. But yeah, going with the Bills, I think the Bills are similar to what they were last year, except they just don't have Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think that they're essentially the same team, but they're just going to be looking for a lot more support from their supportive role players. Keon Coleman, their new rookie wide receiver, he played pretty well. I don't think he's a Stephon Diggs right yet, but he could end up being that type of role player for him. So I think the Bills look fine so far. We'll see how it goes going forward in the season. The next matchup that I really wanted to cover that I thought was actually really surprising was the New England Patriots versus the Cincinnati Bengals. This is what killed a lot of my parlays, any sort of money I was betting. Excuse me. I thought for sure that the Bengals were going to come out and actually look like a team that had been to the Super Bowl in the last, 6-7 years or whatever. However long it's been, it hasn't been too long, to the sense that, Joe Burrow is a Super Bowl type quarterback. He can get a team to the Super Bowl. So you would think that Joe Burrow would be able to lead the Cincinnati Bengals to, a victory against a team that had a top 3 pick in the NFL this last year. You would think, but I digress. The New England Patriots, they have a great defense. I mean, they always do. It feels like that's always the case every year, but they're legitimate again this year. I mean, even without Matthew Judon, I thought for sure they'd take a step back. I was wrong. I mean, they looked really, really good against the Bengals. Bengals couldn't get anything going. Granted, Bengals were without T. Higgins, and sort of a disgruntled Jamar Chase because he had been out most of the offseason due to his contract negotiations. But even with the top two wide receivers kind of in sort of disarray, I sort of felt that Joe Burrow had the leadership capabilities of leading this team to a victory regardless. But of course, I was wrong. It turns out that Patriots had the momentum most of the game. It was kind of weird, especially since the Bengals were at home. I repeat, the Bengals were at home. I kind of expected a lot more different results here. I kind of thought I saw the Patriots fighting for their lives, but they were up pretty much the whole game. Patriots took control. Ramondre Stevenson looks really, really good. I mean, as long as the Patriots can keep a lead, I mean, they can run the ball down your throats with Ramondre. They'd be great if they can keep a lead, but that's the thing is, I don't know if they can keep a lead. Jacoby Brissett is not the answer for them. We'll see if Drake May ends up being that answer, but it's surprising to me that Patriots played so well against the Bengals. So hats off to Patriots. Hopefully they keep it up, and hopefully the Bengals can bounce back. We'll be talking about them a little bit more for our predictions going forward, but thought that was a really interesting matchup. Thought it was something that I need to point out. The next matchup that I wanted to cover, I thought was really, really interesting this past week was the Steelers versus the Falcons. The Steelers had won 18-10 against the Falcons. Really, really surprising. Was not expecting Steelers to win that game at all. They had 6 field goals from Chris Boswell. Pretty insane. But yeah, I just was flabbergasted. That's a good word for it to say about how this game turned out. I expected it to be close because Mike Tomlin's always really good at keeping games close. Thought defense would play well. Honestly, thought the Falcons would win. Falcons are playing at home opener. Hadn't seen Kirk Cousins in a while. Thought he'd end up coming out. This team would end up being able to protect him and end up, leading to a victory. But I was completely wrong. Offensive line looked really, really weak. TJ Watt looked like a beast out there on defense. Always does every year. Dude's one of the best defensive players ever, let alone just like right now. Dude looked amazing out there. Completely destroyed Kirk Cousins. Didn't have any time to throw. Didn't have any time to think. Anytime Kirk Cousins went back into the pocket, it was, doomsday for the Falcons. So they definitely need to work on protection schemes. They got to figure out a way in which they can protect Kirk going forward because he does not look 100% coming off that Achilles injury. He's got to get himself, back in a rhythm, back getting ready to, score touchdowns for that franchise. And for them to be able to do that, they need to change their protection schemes. And when looking at the Steelers, biggest thing, they just need to figure out how to score touchdowns. I mean, they have everything else. It seems like on par. Everything's great. Like, their defense is astounding. They're able to stop offenses in their tracks every time. Even if they're able to drive, they never get touchdowns. Steelers are able to find ways to stop drives consistently, so it's all about getting the offense to be able to produce touchdowns. I mean, you got George Pickens. You need to find a way to get him into the end zone more often and find ways of getting him the ball because the dude is phenomenal. It's just having a quarterback being able to throw it to him. I don't see too much from Justin Fields. I know there's a lot of hype around him. I don't think he's the answer. Hopefully Russell Wilson is once he gets healthy, but that's to be determined. But overall, I mean, you got to be impressed with how the Steelers come out. They haven't scored a touchdown, and they're the only team in their division with a win right now. So, I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. So good for the Steelers. Hopefully they're able to keep it up. I mean, it's Mike Tomlin. They're going to have wins like this throughout the season where you're like, oh my goodness, that was atrocious offense, but the Steelers still won. It's because Mike Tomlin knows how to coach a football team and lead them to a win, even if they don't have the assets that they need. I mean, look out if this team ever gets a quarterback that, is that can win games with his arm, let alone actually having to win just because of coaching. So, see how that goes going forward. Curious to see how both the Steelers and Falcons season progresses. Next game that I thought was really interesting was the Dolphins versus Jaguars, mostly because of the hype around the outside of this game. Before this game started, the Miami Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill had been pulled over in a traffic violation. Turns out Tyreek Hill had been, from the reports has been saying is that he was speeding. Cops had pulled him over for a what was supposed to be a common traffic violation. Somehow, situation had escalated to the point in which the officer had to pull Tyreek Hill out of his car and put him in handcuffs and put him on the side of the road while they wrote his ticket. I'm not entirely sure why the situation had to escalate that high. There are videos of this out on the internet. I encourage everyone to go out and watch it for themselves and make a decision for themselves. But there is a lot of controversy around whether or not the cop deserves to be fired, whether or not Tyreek deserves to be more punished for the way he acted towards the cop. There's definitely arguments for both sides in a way, but one thing that can't be argued is that the cop definitely was using excessive force. It definitely didn't need to get to this ridiculous aggressive state to where Tyreek's out of his car over a driving violation, which 9 times out of 10 everyone's just given their ticket and they're able to go on their merry way. It doesn't have to get to this weird situation over some verbal disagreements, you could say. I personally believe the cop is supposed to be trained to be able to get out of these sorts of situations, no matter how much. I mean, even watching it, you can tell that Tyreek's being uncooperative with the officer, but at the same time, you can tell that the cop's being way out of line with the way he's treating Tyreek. So it's a little bit of a gray area, but it's definitely obvious that the cop was using excessive force, and in that sense, we don't want to make the public more scared of cops, right? So I feel like some sort of punishment needs to be laid down for these cops to not, become this aggressive. Their first instinct should be to de-escalate a situation, not continually escalate it, you know what I mean? So that's my 2 cents on that. Sorry, I'm not big into these big traffic laws and stuff. I don't know too much about all that stuff, dude. So I'm going to stay in my lane with football. Hope all that gets situated well. Really, really tough scene. Hate that all that even happened. But, stuff happens sometimes, and unfortunately, we got to cover it sometimes. So going from there, it ended up being a good day for the Dolphins, even with all this craziness going on. Because not only was Tyreek held in handcuffs, some of his teammates were. They came to check on him. So, like I said, the whole entire situation got blown way out of proportion. Didn't need to go this far. But all in all, the Dolphins players and the team and everything were able to come together even after this crazy event and put on a show for their fans. Ended up getting a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. They ended up winning 20-17, and they won with a 52-yard field goal as time expires from Jason Sanders. So, a heck of a way to win, making it really close. The Dolphins did not look good early. They had a lot of struggles, and then really came back in the second half. Really put on a show, and thought they did really, really good. Excited to see how the Dolphins play going forward. I do think that whole situation definitely affected how this game started and getting in the right mindset. Tyreek ended up having a pretty good game even after all that happened. Had an 80-yard touchdown catch where he mimics the celebration of getting put in handcuffs. I thought it was a legendary. That's the word. Very legendary type celebration. So, going to go into history books. We'll see that throughout the season. I'm sure that celebration pretty crazy. That all this is happening in just week 1, mind you, week 1 of the NFL. But yeah, going on from there, the next matchup that I wanted to cover a little bit was the Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts, where the Houston Texans were the away team and they had won 29-27 against the Colts. This game ended up being really, really exciting, back and forth, bombs from both teams, whether it's Anthony Richardson throwing 70, 80-yard bombs down the field. And then C.J. Stroud just being able to, be a mastermind in the pocket and finding the open receivers or throwing the ball in such small windows that these receivers just somehow catch it and, leaves your jaw on the ground wondering, how in the world did that just happen? I thought this game was one of the most exciting games of the weekend in terms of just like who's going to win. It was very back and forth. Felt like the teams were really, really close in skill wise. It's just Anthony Richardson, I don't think, has the experience in the NFL. Maybe with more experience, he'll be able to pull out these types of wins. But Colts weren't able to get it done, and really awesome that C.J. Stroud and the Texans were able to win this. They had some key drives there towards the end to keep the clock running and keep the ball in their hands, so they didn't have to give it back to the Colts. And thought that was really, really awesome to watch. Another big thing I wanted to mention is Joe Mixon. He's still a good running back. I know that Cincinnati kind of gave up on him, but man, oh man, did really, really good for the Texans. Had 30 carries for, 159 yards? Is that correct? Yeah, 159 yards and a touchdown, dude. Dude went off. Joe Mixon is here to stay. So you're playing against Houston Texans. You got to watch out for the running game on top of C.J. Stroud throwing the ball. Both are very deadly to opponents. And the last game that I wanted to cover here for the Week 1 matchup, there was a lot of matchups, of course, some that I didn't get to, but let me know what you guys think of some of the other matchups. If there's anything crazy you guys thought happened, or want me to highlight, maybe we'll go over it a little bit next in the next episode. It's there a lot of stuff happens in the NFL, a lot of stuff to cover for sure. But going on to the Monday night matchup, I wanted to cover this because I thought this was a really interesting situation. If there's anyone in here that plays fantasy football, which I'm sure you guys do, you probably thought it was really, really strange that the 49ers had been reporting that Christian McCaffrey had been healthy or at least was ready to play Monday night. It wasn't necessarily healthy. He randomly got a questionable status. People were wondering what's up with him being questionable. They're like, oh, this is just a ankle injury that happened early in camp that we just have to put on the injury report. He's good to go. He's fine. CMC would come out and say on Friday that he was going to play on Monday, that everything's fine. And then come Monday, we get a report randomly throughout the evening that CMC is ruled out. And people were like, what do you mean he's inactive? What do you mean he's ruled out? He said Friday he was going to play. So everyone really, really confused. Then after the game, the backup running back has an amazing, amazing game. Ends up going, what was it again? 28 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown. Very, very similar to Joe Mixon's stats here. Jordan Mason is the backup. He does this in place of Christian McCaffrey, sort of on a late notice, ends up putting these big numbers up, gets interviewed after the game. They ask him, when did you find out you were going to start? And here, he tells the media he knew about it on Friday, even though Christian McCaffrey came out on Friday and said he was going to play Monday. So, makes you wonder, why did the 49ers, try to fool the media? Or maybe they try to make it some sort of competitive advantage against the Jets. But all in all, this looks really, really shady, especially when the NFL is so entangled with sports betting nowadays. Like, there was a lot of bets. I mean, personally, I had some bets on Christian McCaffrey to do well because he usually does. I mean, everyone, including the sports books, thought that Christian McCaffrey was going to play this game until last minute, and he's ruled out. And definitely doesn't look good for the 49ers. I don't understand why we still play these games. It's very little competitive advantage to know if a player's playing or not, and they're so obligated to keep these injury reports very public. Like, you would think that they would do their due diligence to just make sure everything's in the right instead of having these silly issues coming up. I just think it's silly to even. I don't think it would have been that much of a difference had the Jets known it was Jordan Mason over Christian McCaffrey. I really don't think it would have changed the results that much because, I mean, as a defender, you got to beat the guy that's blocking you. You got to get around them. That's number one. Regardless if you know the scheme or not, you got to be able to get around them. But that did not happen, and the Jets ended up losing to the 49ers. The Jets were only able to score 19 points, while 49ers scored 32 points, so 49ers are able to get the victory at home there. And it just goes to show, Jets need to make a lot of improvements on defense for sure. The fact they're not able to stop this 49ers offense brings a lot of caution, a lot of, bring out the siren for the Jets here. It's not looking good. Defensively, everyone thought that the Jets were this team that were a juggernaut on defense and just needed a quarterback to get them to the promised land. Well, here to start out this season, it does not look that way at all. In fact, quarterback play seemed to be decent with Aaron Rodgers being back his first time being back in so long, even being gone basically all of last year. only able to play a few plays at the beginning of last year before being out with his Achilles. And I thought he came back and played pretty well, especially against a really good 49ers defense. It was the Jets defense that weren't able to really get anything done and help the Jets create more drives and sustain drives on the field. The Jets defense really didn't step up at all in this matchup, and it makes you wonder how much is the Hassan Reddick holdout affecting this, because Hassan is still not back with the team. This is like one of the first times ever that a player is held out into the season like this, since Le'Veon Bell, at least in terms of severity of how bad the holdout is and how disgruntled the two sides are with each other. This is very reminiscent of Le'Veon Bell's situation. So it doesn't look like Hassan's going to be back anytime soon. Hopefully that changes. Hopefully maybe we'll find out later on this week they'll mend the bridge and Hassan will be back and ready for week 2. But until we hear that news, Hassan's still out, and the Jets defense is definitely in red alert right now. They got to figure something out, because I don't think they're going to be able to go this whole season and be a dominant defense for sure without Hassan Reddick, without having some sort of good pass rush to help complement their secondary. So until that happens, jury's still out on the Jets. Not looking good for them, but I think 49ers, of course, are going to be just fine going into this season. So that's all for my Week 1 recap. Let me know what you guys think of what happened with Week 1. Any interesting stories that maybe I missed that you guys would like to see me cover or talk about, leave it down in the comment section below. Be sure to get back with you guys. And again, greatly appreciate you guys for listening to me. Let's go ahead and get into some of the Week 2 predictions before we head out here. I know I've been going on a little bit longer here with some of my Week 1 coverage, but we're back in the NFL season, and I'm just really excited to talk about some football. So let's get into it real quick. For my first prediction for Week 2, we'll get into the matchup for tonight. As you guys know, we are into Week 2 now. This is the beginning of Week 2, Thursday Night Football. It's going to be the Miami Dolphins, who are at home against the Buffalo Bills. So quick turnaround for these two teams. Both teams have won. They're both 1-0. And I think that both look pretty good in their opener. Of course, the Dolphins had a little bit of a rough start with all the crazy events going on. I don't think it's going to be that way this week. I think they're going to come out with a hot start against the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills defense is a little shaky. We'll see, if they're able to do well against the Dolphins here. But for my prediction, I'm going to guess it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I don't see there being a lot of defense in this game, just because Josh Allen is crazy on the field, and I think he's going to be able to create scoring opportunities that other teams wouldn't be able to do. And the Dolphins just have a really, really good offensive scheme. So I got a feeling that it's going to be in the 30s for both teams, and I see the Dolphins winning 38-34. Book it there. So if there's an over-under, probably going to be the over. And yeah, I see, like I said, Dolphins winning 38-34. Going on to my next game. The next game that I wanted to cover here is the New England Patriots playing at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, New England Patriots have won that game against the Bengals. I was very, very surprised. Their defense looks dominant. And the Seahawks struggled against the Denver Broncos and were able to just barely pull out a win against the Denver Broncos with their rookie quarterback, Bo Nix. And makes you wonder for sure, are the Seahawks really a contender or not? Do they really have good pieces, or were they able to kind of luck out against, a rookie quarterback and be able to take advantage of that rookie's mistakes? So we're going to find out for sure against the Patriots here. I personally think that the Patriots have a really, really good chance of winning this. One thing, the Patriots are at home. They have a dominant defense, and if there's going to be some sort of another upset to happen this week, I think that the Patriots could be that team to upset the Seahawks. So keep an eye on that game. I actually have the Patriots winning this in a lower scoring affair. I see it being something like, because Patriots like to kick field goals, so I think it's going to be a field goal mayhem for them. I'm going to say something like 27 to... we'll make it 21. 27-21 Patriots. I don't know if it'll go that high scoring affair, but I just got a feeling that the Seahawks are going to kind of struggle against Ramondre Stevenson in that run game, and Patriots will end up putting up a lot more points than what people are expecting. That's my prediction there. So we'll stick with that. It's going to be 27-21 Patriots. Going from there, my next game that I thought would be interesting to cover here is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs will be at home. Cincinnati Bengals will be the away team. There's been a lot of talk about Joe Burrow and his wrist, of course. He had that wrist problem. They've been showing videos of him like working out his wrist on the sidelines, doing things like that. You can definitely tell that the wrist is bothering him in some way, shape, or form because he continues to stretch it out on the sidelines, doing things like that. And seeing him like mess with his wrist definitely is a little bit of a cause of concern, especially if you're a fantasy owner or just Cincinnati Bengals fan. Is that wrist good enough to throw accurate throws? Is he going to be able to get deep balls down the field and throw them accurately? It remains to really, really be seen as the season goes on, but you can tell that it's bothering him a little bit here in week 1, and hopefully that's not the case going forward. But for my prediction for this game, I still think it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs winning. Cincinnati Bengals, I think, are going to end up keeping it close, even though they didn't do well against the Patriots. I got a feeling they're going to come out and do a lot better against the Chiefs. They always play the Chiefs well. They got kind of a grudge against them in postseason matchups. So, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair just because I think Bengals defense will be able to hold up against Kansas City's offense. And, of course, I think Kansas City's defense is still pretty good, still elite up there. And if Patriots were able to do what they did to the Bengals, I think that Kansas City can replicate that. Excuse me. So, final score predictions. I'm going to go with Kansas City... not as 24-17. That's what I'm going to do. Kansas City wins 24. Bengals lose with only 17 points. So 24-17 there. And going on to our fourth matchup for week 2, we'll go ahead and look at the Chicago Bears taking on the Houston Texans. Houston Texans are the home team this week. I think that Houston Texans are going to blow away the Chicago Bears. Personally, I think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think it's interesting to mention because we get to see the second matchup of Caleb Williams. Is he going to get over 100 yards passing this time? Remains to be seen. I think Houston's defense is actually really good. Hard to defend against somebody like Anthony Richardson, who can just throw a bomb out of nowhere and it be like an 80-yard touchdown pass as long as the receiver can just get underneath it. It's crazy just how much arm strength Anthony Richardson has and the talent that he is. Like the guy is astounding. It's going to be fun to watch him throughout his NFL career as long as he stays healthy. And going from there, we're going to see what Caleb Williams can do with this Bears offense. He obviously is not going to be doing what Anthony Richardson was doing with the Colts and throwing these 90-yard bombs. It's going to be probably more methodical working down the field. We'll see if they get the run game working this time. The Bears weren't able to get any sort of run game going last week, so we'll see if DeAndre Swift is going to be able to help him or not. And we'll see if the Bears' offensive line can actually hold up and keep Caleb upright, and see how much the Bears can compete against the Texans, because I personally think that the Texans are going to run away with this. Final score prediction, I'm going to say, that's it. I'd say something like 24-6. I don't even know if the Bears score an offensive touchdown again this week. That's what I'm going to go with. I haven't seen anything from the Bears to make me think they're going to destroy here. So I think Texans come out, blow them out. Going to win 24-6. And then my next and final game that we'll cover is the Monday night game, the Philadelphia Eagles. We got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Philadelphia Eagles are at home this time, and not actually not in Brazil, being at home. No, we're actually in Lincoln Financial. We're in Philadelphia, ready to take on the Atlanta Falcons, and I think this is going to be a great game. You're going to have Jason Kels on ESPN Monday Night Countdown talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, so he's definitely going to be there and be present, and it's just going to be fun, I think, seeing that. And Eagles, I thought they played well against Green Bay as it was. I still think they got a lot to prove when it comes to their defense and their offensive line. So Really looking forward to seeing, how they show up this game. I think that they should do well against the Falcons. One thing I'm really interested to see is how Jalen Hurts plays against the Falcons defense. I think the Falcons have one of the better secondaries in the league. It's not talked about enough, but with like Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell being some defensive backs back there to definitely be concerned about when throwing. So interested to see how Jalen Hurts handles different defensive coverages from this team. We'll see if he's able to come out on top. He had some very costly turnovers early in the Green Bay game that they were able to overcome. Let's hope that Jalen stays away from those turnovers and plays some clean football, and the Eagles come out showing that they still are a contender in this league. So excited to see how that matchup goes. My final prediction for that game, I'm thinking that it's going to be a little bit closer. Eagles are an offensive scoring juggernaut. I think they're going to get in the 30s again. I think it's going to be probably like 35 to, let's say, 24. I think the Falcons will end up having some scoring drives, and they're going to fix some of their O-line problems, but I think the Eagles are still just going to be too much for them. I think the offense of the Eagles is a juggernaut in the league, and I think that they're going to show it. They're going to show it this week. They're going to go off and throw up another 30-point game and show the league, why they should be concerned about the Philadelphia offense. And love Saquon being an addition in that. He's going to go off again. He'll definitely probably have another touchdown at least in this game. I'm excited to see it. Excited to see what this Eagles team can do. And yeah, that's everything I got. Like I said, final prediction: Eagles 35, Falcons 24. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Honest Football Talk. I believe that's everything I got. We'll be back again next week to cover some of these results, see if any of my predictions were correct. And yeah, looking forward to another week of football. So hope you guys enjoy the Thursday night matchup tonight. I know I'll be watching. Hit me up on Twitter at Honest F-Ball Talk. I post on there quite often about everything going on, more in real time of what's going on with football results. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from everybody and what everyone thinks of this next week coming up. So that's everything I got, guys. This is Honest Football Talk. This is Thomas Llewellyn, and I'm signing off, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next week right back here. Take care, guys. Thank you.